Again, thank you all for being here. Now I'll pass it over to John and Sandy.
Thank you, Olivia.
All right, so we'll set this up. You can definitely get the vibe here. It's like being in church that nobody wants front row ever, but you know, we're used to that as well in our events. So we have a slideshow. It's not particularly long, but it kind of just gives a nice flyover of what's happening for our district here.
I'm here.
Running around.
Sorry, just getting myself working.
Yeah, so it's a kind of a high-level flyover of how our district finances are working, and then that can inform those questions that Olivia had. And again, we want to thank the Levy Committee for organizing this to kind of let us share with you kind of a bit of our story, so you can be best prepared and for those that you speak with. So moving right along. Introduce yourself.
Anyway, I am new to the treasurer's position, so I thought I would take like a minute or two to kind of tell you about my background, how I got to be lucky enough to be the treasurer in Mogadore of the schools. I first of all got my teaching license in 1999. I was a teacher for 8 years. I decided about year 5 that I wanted to reach more than just the kids in my classroom, so I went to the state and got my administrator's license, my master's in administration. I became a principal. I was a principal for 15 years before I became treasurer here. I've been at 2 different other schools before I came to Mogadore. I was the principal of the elementary school here for 6 years. And I decided about a year and a half ago that I wanted to look into the treasurer's fund. I was always interested in finances. Before I did that, though, I forgot to say that I do also have a superintendent's license. So I kind of was looking at the treasurer piece, kind of thinking about finishing my career as in the treasurer's seat. I did not expect to be a treasurer so quickly, but I was lucky enough to get my treasurer's license this past June and was licensed and bonded and became a treasurer at the end of August. So I do want to thank the board for their support and belief in me, and I think that we've done a great job so far.
No, that's helpful, because again, some people are like, how do you go from being the treasurer to being the principal to being the treasurer? She'd actually been working on that and had the superintendent's license for many years, so it was a good fit to make that transition. So we always have to place our vision statement out there. We won't read that to you, but you can see that vision statement. We use that in grant applications. We have it posted. That's kind of our North Star concept.
Every child, every day.
When the Levy Committee asked us to participate, they kind of talked about what are some just basic district highlights you've been working on, because the question is like, where does your money go? What do you do with money throughout time? And these are just some very, very skeletal few highlights we've had. So if any of you have had children recently at the grade school, it was unbelievably hot. I was principal there for 2 years, and then Sandy came in, and we had to get that school air conditioned. The biggest reason is because of safety and security. That building was not designed to have every classroom door closed and the end of the hallways closed. But with safety and security, you have to close and lock classroom doors. And that cuts off that natural flow of air from outside through the classroom into the hallway and exiting through the ceiling. Because there's some vents down the ceiling and then also at the exterior doors at the end of each hallway. So when we had to close up our safety envelope, it became very hot. So that was like a major project to then extend the life of that building. The building has nice windows, nice roof, and putting the air conditioning in there really just kind of increased its lifespan a lot more. We'll show you down the road another consideration. We still don't have the cafeteria air conditioned, nor do we have the gym air conditioned. So we're trying to figure out how we can potentially do that. The cafeteria especially, there's a lot of kids in there. We have to keep the door closed again for that safety piece, but it gets awfully hot in there for our young people. Even though they're only in there for 30 minutes, that's still a pretty difficult time for some of our kids that have kind of medical issues. And we also have staff members working in there for a few hours. But as you can see, we had a new bus fleet came in, and just like I was talking with our board president earlier, police cruisers, fire trucks, they all have a useful lifespan, a safe lifespan. Well, you've all seen an old police cruiser that people drive, but it's not safe enough for and dependable enough every day for law enforcement to use that cruiser. A lot of the same thing is true with our buses. Can a bus still run after it's safe time? Yes, of course it can. But it won't pass inspection by the Highway Patrol. It's got to be 100% safe every day. That's why you don't see broken down school buses very often. They are inspected all the time to make sure they're safe. We're always working on that. And when they go through their lifespan, where they're becoming too costly to maintain, you have to get new ones. Even though you might look and say, it doesn't look that bad to me, or it doesn't have that many miles, but it's not safe enough to assure 100% accuracy that your children will be safe. So we had a new fleet came in 2016. We've done different safety pieces at the grade school and the high school for fire and safety compliance. If you've been up there recently, we have some split classrooms. They have to have fire safe doors. We've done a lot of those kind of upgrades to make sure that we keep it safe. A perfect example, and I'm not following at the moment, I should be, is you can't have an extension cord hooked into a surge protector. That's not safe. Try to ignore what I'm very public. We'll not do that in the future. But we can't have that in learning spaces. There's a lot of stuff that like we would do in our homes that you can't do in a commercial space. You really can't do in a commercial space that has people's children in it. So that's why it might seem like that's a little bit overkill. Yes, again, you might drive a car to a ton of miles. I do too. We can't do that with your children. We can't have a surge protector plugged into an extension cord. You can do that at your house if you want. You can't do that around people's children. It's not a safe plan. We've had to add some stuff to the high school. We've got warming ovens, hoods that have to be repaired, hot water tanks, just simple things like that. This is a clever touch board. Through the pandemic, this became extremely important for our teachers to be able to synchronously or asynchronously, meaning at different times, teach our students because it's touch interactive and it can link directly to the Google Classroom. It's been a big deal to have that and then have the students be able to work with that universally, K-12. And then we also have one in the preschool?
Yes.
I should have verified. Yes, the preschool room as well. And finally, another highlight, Chromebooks. To make sure that we're giving all the students all the opportunities, that one-to-one Chromebook, 712, 2-to-1, and actually in many instances, it's closer to 1-to-1 at the grade school as we move on. But they too have a lifespan when they can be testing compliant. So that's just some like high flyovers. That's why I like kind of the aerial view kind of thing of our buildings. What's been going on?
So enrollment. This is a big point that I think that everyone should realize these numbers. In 2019, our enrollment was 861 students in Mogadore. Currently, we have 382 at OH Summers and 380 at the middle and high school for a total of 762 students. We projected, where the arrow is, 757. Okay, so we're kind of showing the trend, and you can see the trend is going down.
And the reason why it's important Cindy talks to you about that is number of students drives the revenue you're getting from the state. The less kids you have, the less revenue you're getting. And I think the other important question when I was talking with Joy LaCause, she said, is this happening elsewhere? And I said, it is happening elsewhere. And we had some research done recently. It was free to us through Ohio Facilities Commission. They have to do an enrollment projection. And this is what the state of Ohio is right now. You can see the majority of Ohio is losing enrollment. This is not, I mean, it's actually across the country, but Ohio is where we're going to focus on. You can see, and we're in Summit County, this kind of Band-Aid color, for lack of a better description, 9.5% reduction in enrollment. Portage County, even worse, I mean, double that. Right. You can see the growth counties outside of Columbus. We know the Intel project's coming along. There's a large influx of Somali population there, but really the growth you're seeing is that Delaware County is just expanding. They can't build schools fast enough. That's an anomaly for the majority of Ohio, where if there is growth, you're looking at, you know, around 2% to maybe 5%. Delaware County is a huge anomaly, but the takeaway is the reduction of students, both for us and for non-publics, is down across Ohio. So that's very important for people to remember. And you can see those birth counts, and that's something we watch too. Like how many live births there are in Mogadore today determines how many kindergartens we're going to have in 5 years, and we have to keep track of that.
So how are our schools funded? There's a couple big ways. We have foundation payments. We get foundation, what they call foundation payments from the state of Ohio twice a month. The state uses a complex formula to figure out what each district's base cost is. As you can see right here, for this year, fiscal year 2024, is $8,918.55. And this is what they think, the state thinks it should cost us to educate each student. They then figure out how much the state is going to pay us to educate that student. And again, it's a formulaic way of doing it.
Based on valuation of property and our ability to raise revenues.
Right. And so right now, our state share is almost $5,900 they give us for the year for each 762 students in Mogadore. And then they're saying our local capacity is $3,023.94, which is what we should be getting in through our other big way that we get monies in, which is a tax revenues from the county auditors twice a year. We get this money, they're paid to the district each year in end of January, and then in July, and that's it. We'll just get whatever the taxes, our share of what the taxes are collected, and it is about $3,023 per student.
So that's really important on the state share, because when you have that dwindling or reducing enrollment, you can really see how that affects us per student.
The 5-year share.
The biggest driver in a school that we have to certify is a 5-year forecast.
Right.
The 5-year forecast should be, again, this idea of what is your reality now and where do you think it's going to go, and obviously it adjusts over time, but this is what gets certified to the state, and we have links on there at the end if you'd like to see any past 5-year forecasts.
Right. So this is our current 5-year forecast. We are in the process, we have to bring it to the state and have the state certify your 5-year forecast in May and again in November. So it's always every 6 months it's updated. This is our most current one. We are currently in fiscal year 2024. This shows you where we have, if we do have the levy, if the levy does pass, we'll get in January $306,000. If it doesn't pass, we get zero. So if the levy doesn't pass, so our beginning cash balance at the beginning of this year, July 1, was $581,000. If the levy doesn't pass, we will be in a negative $236,000. Next year, which is July 1 of 2024, that's fiscal year 2025.
And I always remember that as I just think of the graduation year.
Right.
Whatever the graduation year, that's your fiscal year. So right now we have kids that are going to graduate 24, we're in fiscal 24. Very easy to remember it that way.
The one point I also do want to make from 24 to 25, if you look at the expenditures, in 2024 it's $13,972,000. In 2025 it's $12,635. That is due to the reductions that have been suggested from the state of Ohio's auditor's office. So even with our expenditures going down by $1.3 million, we still are not, because of enrollment going down, getting the revenue that's expected.
And that's what you've been seeing with any of the engagement from the Levy Committee. They're talking about, even with passage, you will see cuts. And those cuts have been placed into the 5-year forecast. You'll see there has to be a reduction in revenues in addition to new monies coming in.
So again, for next school year, which will be 2025, starting in July, you can see where if the levy does pass, we get $609,000, about between $609 and $602 for the next 4 years. And you can see if we have the levies, we are in the positives. If we do not, those bottom 2 lines are negatives. The other piece is we are in fiscal caution. I know some of you have heard about this. I want to explain what this is. The state looked at some of our previous 5-year forecasts, the last one from last November. I was not involved in that forecast, but there was some concern. So they came in, they started talking, they wanted to see our monthly financial information. We then did our May forecast, and they said, well, you don't have a levy, or that can't be in the red. So they put us in a fiscal caution, June 30th. We are supposed to get out of it next year, June 30th, if we follow our financial reduction, which we've submitted to the state. The board approved it. If the levy, there's a couple of things. If the levy doesn't pass, we will perhaps, if our monies still stay negative, then go to the next stage, which is fiscal watch, and then on to fiscal emergency, which is basically the state auditor's office comes in and basically runs everything.
They take over the books, they take over control of the money, because you have to stay solvent. It's in the revised code. You cannot be running the night plan.
And so what we're doing though with our financial recovery plan and with our newest forecast and with the levy, we will be solvent. And that is our goal, is to get out of fiscal caution and then work and plan for the future. Because I think, well, I'm not going to do this. I can't do that. But anyway, I think that we need to have a strong plan, a strategic plan, and a strong plan for maintenance and buying equipment and those types of things.
Right. So recently we engaged in a process called a performance audit. And it's the auditor state has a performance team. And they do that for school districts, government agencies, any state engaged organization can have a performance audit done free of cost. And they come in and they look at everything soup to nuts to figure out where can you save money through their lens. We had that process done. They released the report in October. Locally around Lake Local also had a report done. Union Local had a report done at their school. So some of the takeaways, again, these high-level takeaways, just like Sandy mentioned, we need to have formalized plans going forward. It is good practice anyways to have formalized plans. It is extremely important when your margins are getting narrow like ours are in money. So having that formalized fiscal plan, having a plan in place for what is going to be your replacement buses. Last time around, our fleet was in such dire circumstances, we had to replace all of them at one time. That's not a good idea. That's a lot of money to come out of your coffers to try to figure out how to do that. It's better to say, okay, every 3 years or every site a plan for a bus. You capture all that in formalized plans that have stakeholder engagement, so you can stay on that to then justify when you're building out things like 5-year forecasts. You can say, I need a plan because I know in 2020 whatever, we're going to buy a bus. And that's why our forecast needs to look this way. Do we need to go out and ask for money or not? Or do we need to maybe look at this opportunity or not? So that's one of the pieces in there. The plan also, if you can find it, again, it's linked on our website. It'll be linked in the presentation for you. Talked about the reduction of staff. Enrollment and staffing needs to run closely. The only difference, though, in terms of what the auditor of state performance team said and what we're working on is they're going to look at state minimums. That one teacher to 25 students. That's not always practical. And you'll see in the report they also say things like, if you fully execute some of the stuff, it may not hit graduation requirements. You may need to seek support from the Ohio Department of Ed or soon Department of Education and Workforce for approval. So that's where we have that ability locally to take the recommendations, but also make it work for Mogadore to provide that quality programming for our young people. They also wanted to talk about monitoring our open enrollment. We can't rely on open enrollment. We cannot be hiring people on open enrollment. But if we've got open seats in a classroom, if that teacher's already there with 17 kids and 3 more students from outside would like to come in, why not? Come on in and we'll get those revenues for that. But we don't want to expand our classrooms to have to hire staff members for students that don't reside here. We just want to fill gaps because we don't have enough students every year necessarily to fill up those teachers we need to service our residents. We want to maximize our capacity, and you can do that with open enrollment. We've got to monitor carefully, and that was one of the recommendations. continue to monitor your open enrollment. They talk about insurance costs.
Insurance costs are, they want us to look again at costs. Costs are going up, especially as maybe as you well know for your own self, for your own companies. Medical, dental, eye, they're all going up. These are inflationary times, and what they want us to do is look at the surrounding districts and just align ourselves with them. Okay?
And we were close. In many ways, we were close, and there's some massaging that has to be done in that area, and we'll get there at some point. But that was another big area that they want to look at because they know rising costs can be difficult on the district. So they wanted us to look at that consideration. And then busing, and making sure that we're maximizing our bus fleet and our bus routes. Currently, we run 4 daily routes, and they want to make sure that we utilize our buses, that we have the most amount of students, full capacity, and their full capacity idea is 3 to a seat in the younger grades, and then 2 to a seat as they get older. So part of what we will do as well is look at our buses from our bus cameras, because even though they can be spec 3 to a seat, not a lot of 4th and 5th graders will fit in a seat, 3 to a seat. But we have to take that into consideration, because again, they're going to give us the industry standard, and we need to make it work for Mogadore, but we have to be most efficient what we're going to do. And this link to the treasurer's office on here, but again, we'll show that later on. Another question we received, and we want to make sure that we told you, is what is an operational levy?
And again, we're asking for a levy that is just 5.9% mills for 5.9 mils for 5 years. You know, it's not an open-ended, ongoing levy. Operational levies are used to pay for salaries and benefits, textbooks, computers, equipment, utilities, supplies, gasoline, extracurriculars.
So basically things that don't have like a really long lifespan.
Right.
And even though you might see like a computer, some of our computers don't have a very long lifespan. Those Chromebooks for the young people, their testing lifespan only
Less than 5 years.
Yeah, right around 5 years, and then we work it down to lower grades. They'll still turn on, they'll still work, but they've moved out of their functional ability to be used for testing. And I joke with saying about the 5.9 mil percent because we have spent so much time making sure we have the math correct to explain accurately to you, so I'm always like joking with her, so that's not a cover.
No, we're good.
We've been looking at a lot of numbers together.
Yes. So, and again, as you saw from my previous slide, it is going to generate approximately between 605 and 610,000 per year for 5 years.
So then and then Sandy now will explain, what does this look like here? So I'll walk through the chart, and then Sandy can kind of explain the so what. So you've got the color set up here, and again, this was feedback from our levy committee. The green, that's our revenue coming in, the dollars coming in. Red is what we've been spending, our current budgeting as it stands. The yellow is the amount of levy we bring in. You'll see the yellow, very small amounts on there. Yellow at the top of the green bar is revenue that would come in from the passage of the new levy, and the black line is your cash balance.
And then, so if you look at this, the state recommends that every district have on the books, in the bank, 60 days of cash to pay their bills. In June, we were down to 6 days, which is kind of scary. But as you can see this year, for 2024 projected, and this was from our May forecast, and we haven't done November yet, but it is forecasted that we, at the end of this year, are going to be very low in cash at hand. And again, when I talked before regarding the monies we get in, every month we do get foundation payments from the state, but the taxes come in only twice a year, and so we have to hold money back and get the state, so then we can pay the bills every month. And that's what this projection is telling us, that, hey, well, you might have, X amount of dollars right now, but in a month and a half or 2 months, once you make pay all your obligations, you're going to maybe just have a quarter of that, and you better be ready for when that day comes before the next revenue comes in from taxes, which will be in January.
Right. And the other big question again is, why 5.9? Where did that arrive from? you were 9.9 before. Well, 9.9 before was status quo. Nothing was going to change with our staffing levels. Nothing would change from our programmatic offerings. But the board heard that, and they wanted to get as tight as they could with reductions to ask for as least as we needed, and that's what drove the concept of the 5.9 in there. Would we have liked more? Could have been, yeah, absolutely. We could use more with less reductions. But we try to get as narrow as possible, and that's why you'll see that the green bar with yellow added to it is not grossly inflated over our expenses that have projected cuts in there. We're trying to stay as even as possible because, again, we're not trying to make money. We're not trying to hoard money. We're trying to pay our current expenses going forward and being the most sound with your dollars as we can. But those red lines do indicate the reductions that have been forecasted going forward. 9.9 before, status quo, nothing changed. That did not pass. A realignment did occur, and this also supports what came out from the performance audit team of reducing that millage. So reductions plus passage of levy.
It's going with what John said. If you notice in 2025, our red line has gone down. So this is for next year, starting in July. This is because we do have a reduction in staff. We will, if the levy passes, we will be in the black. So.
You want to see kind of in general where's the money go? I'll read this because the little bars at the bottom are kind of small. It's no surprise we have very, very highly trained and educated people in these buildings provide the best quality service that they can to your students, your children. And that comprises about 61% of our revenues coming in. No other industry, well, I don't want to say that. This industry has a lot of highly trained people underneath one roof. Followed by folks like our classified, those are our support staff, our bus drivers, about 10%, that's an orange number. 18% are all your board office staff because they're not unionized, so that's board office staff, our administrative staff, and folks like myself and Sandy. That's in the gray number. Things like contracted service for special education students that we are unable to educate here. That's that sliver in yellow. Our service center for the county is about 3%, so that will provide us some curricular support, special ed director support. We hire a fraction of people there. We do not have full-time curriculum. We do not have full-time special ed director. Transportation is not a humongous part of it, but it's sizable, and it does add up. But that does comprise about 4%. But again, you're going to see that largest piece in there being our teaching staff salaries and benefits. That's true in pretty much every district. And then the last little bit of that 3 refers to our utilities. 3% is about what our utilities cost us annually.
And then something else that I wanted to share. People talk a lot about this beautiful facility, this field house, and the expense. Currently, it is 4.23% of our yearly budget. This field house and stadium, this whole complex will be, the debt's going to be completed in 2031. So that's 8 years from now, everything will be paid off. But I do want everybody to realize that it is only about 4.23% of our
Again, these have not been adopted into formalized plans, so that's why they're called needs and considerations. If any of you have been to the high school and upstairs, we do have some roof issues going on in that building. That is going to be a future need to factor in how we're going to either do a partial replacement or full replacement. We are going to look into other opportunities. I just had a meeting recently, talked about potentially some solar credit kind of concept and some roofing ideas. We're going to chase down every possible opportunity we have through grant funding, energy upgrades, anything we can before we have to actually dip into monies to pay for the roof repair. But we have to do that because you have an outstanding facility that is being compromised, and that's terrible. I mean, we do not want to have an unhealthy environment. It's a beautiful building. We just have some leaking roof issues there. And again, those considerations down the road, we have put some LEDs in throughout the buildings in strategic areas. The gym in the high school has LED. We put LED in the grade school gym. We're trying to recuperate some money there. If there's some grant opportunities and we can do some further investments, it would just save us on our utility side. And hopefully that would allow us to then get some energy back as well and some money to maybe in air condition the grade school. But again, These have not been adopted into a formalized plan, which is what we need to do. But these are just some ideas of like, well, what would you want to do in the future? These are some considerations that we want to put forward for you to understand. Now is the fun thing. So this is where I was joking with Sandy earlier, because people say, what will it cost? This is having somebody say, just tell me what I'm going to pay you. What's it not me, but in general. So I did a very basic calculation, and Sandy worked with me to check all this without reduction factors. Because if you're a senior citizen, or you've got other kind of reduction factors, your number could be different and should be lower. But this would be on your high side. But this is just explanatory nature. But just how the math works. Because everyone wants to know, how does the math work? Is it 5.9 million? No, it's a mil. It's factored differently. It's a thousandth of a penny is what a mil is. But this is the breakdown. So the left-hand column, 80,000 to 200,000, that's the appraised value by your county fiscal officer. It's appraised value. Not what Zillow says. This is the item from your county fiscal officer. That should be accurate. And if it's not accurate in your estimation, you can file an appeal with them and show them what it should be. And you should do that. You should have an accurate assessment of your home with your audit. Again, that's not what Zillow says. That's what your either Portage or Summit County auditor says is the appraised value of your home. The next column is how the levy is figured. It's $207 for every $100,000 of that appraised value. So that's why you take your appraised value divided by your $100,000, and you can see these either less than 1% or higher, and then you can see the multiplier over there. So, for example, if you have a home that is valued by the auditor, not Zillow, valued by the auditor at $95,000, you'd be at around $197 per year, or as we know, our taxes are paid on the half, $98.24 on the half, or $16.39 monthly. So it just kind of gives you an idea as you think about where your house stands in the village of where you might be for our levy here in November. But again, if you do not feel your valuation is accurate, make an appointment with your county auditor and produce them some information to show what you believe is an accurate value of your home. We want the most accurate information here because that helps us to have that on your side, helps you, but also helps us on us when they think about how much money we can raise as a community from the state. When they determine our state share we get, we need accuracy. So if we're over, if they're over on your home that's not accurate, that is not helping us. It needs to be accurate. So be watching your tax bill. Be watching what the auditor says about your home and make sure it reflects what you believe is right for your particular home in its current state. But this is, again, simple math without reduction factors. But if you want to look at your actual detailed bill, we can help you with that. Phone to the office. We have a model. We can do that with you. If you want to walk through your tax bill, we have had a gentleman call in. We tried to answer that. I've looked at some of our board members' houses just so I can do the math right on here. We can help you with that. If you want to see a little bit more accurate what your bill would look like.
So one thing we also put on this presentation, which you will be getting and have access to, are different links.
And watch how techy I am on this one. See, I can do that. It does something amazing. So you can see these performance audits. Your local, there's us, and then, like I said, like local, the other ones. But all these links will be live. It's fascinating. Read up. There's so much information about school districts out there. You totally want to do that. We have the Department of the Education report card. We have a strong report card. We found some data errors that we would like to have resolved that we could actually hire one. Our K2 literacy, not accurate to us. We actually did better than that. It's not going to reflect on the report card, but we're going to make sure it's on the next year, we hope, to show us nicely. But we're going to get that out to you. We have 5-year forecasts, like Sandy was saying. You can click on 5-year forecast. You have access to it. You can see every school district in the state of Ohio. That is the very technique. What did I just do wrong? Please close that out. Fix that out. I need a teacher and a student to help you out.
Oh, it's not good. It's not good.
Click the middle one, Sandy.
Or white.
Help us out.
Thank you.
So anyways, you can click and see any 5-year forecast you want in the state of Ohio. And it's really clever because, again, we like to look at what other folks are doing. What are they doing right? So we can try to do that as well. And you literally can just start scrolling through. Every school district is on here. You scroll down, find Mogadore, click on that, troves of information.
And every fiscal year, all the way back to.
Exactly. We put in, if you want to know how your teacher's paid, what's in their contract, you can click on that. And it has other people out there as well, other folks that have negotiated agreements. So collective bargaining agreements, you're not going to find UAW on there, but you're going to find state type things. So you can see if there's a fire department that has a negotiated contract, that'll be on there as well. What happened?
I got it.
Oh, sorry. It's on there, but anyhow, you can read our teacher's contract. You can read our non-teacher's contract to kind of see what's happening there. Ohio checkbook, we are on there as well. If you want to see the Ohio checkbook, see how money's flow out. I'm going to play on that a little bit more because I'm not as good navigating through there. And then also, we just want to make sure you know that all of this is archived on our treasurer's tab. So if you just go to our main website, you click menu, okay, I'm so impressed with that stuff here. And you can find our departments. The last one on there is treasurer's office, but it takes you to this page here. And she's archiving and putting a lot more reports on there so you can be up to date. And this is just not for a now thing. This is part of what Sandy's commitment has been to the board, and I connect with that. Part of what she said is, I think I want to have more information available to people all the time. And she's been committed to that. You can see she's already building out this work for you all.
So when I came and did the first financial report, that was the August meeting, the September meeting was all the August information and financials and what we spent our money on in August. So everything is there. So you can see, soup to nuts, where our money went.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay here. Okay,
It's
summary. Here's our summary. So, to summarize kind of everything we talked about so far, we do have this 5.9 mil levy, and the November balance would generate approximately $635,000, below 610. Annually for 5 years. It's for operational expenses, salaries, benefits, transportation, and utilities.
And then we did the sample calculation. Again, want to detail one of your own home, call in, we'll try to get that so if we have a calculator, we get a little bit, you can put your reduction factors in there. And then, yeah, that's us. Sorry, Fox. I feel like I'm
It's okay. Again, and I'll reiterate what Mr. Knapp said, call the board office if you want to discuss any of the facts that we shared with you today. I'd be happy to sit down and talk with you. I know John would as well. If you have any questions, just call us. We'd be happy to talk with you.